Hello, welcome to One Tech World. I'm presenting the challenges and opportunities of integrating AI assistants into your development workflow. I'm Rafna Bash, founder and CEO of Activato, an online service for women transitioning to the tech industry, those returning to work after a career break, and women looking to advance in their tech careers. We provide support, guidance, and resources to activate, relaunch, or reinvent tech careers. You can connect with me through my website, activator.com, and social media platforms, search for Rafna Bash. In the first space world of software development, AI assistants are becoming essential tools that promise to revolutionize how we approach coding, data analysis, and technical problem solving. This advanced technology allows human like conversations to be generated programmatically, which can drastically increase productivity for data engineers, software developers, and data scientists. Before we go through opportunities and challenges, let's look at how to integrate ChatGPT into your development workflows and some use cases of ChatGPT in data, coding, and tech. I'm using ChatGPT as it is one of the most popular AI tools. You can use other AI assistants in the same way as ChatGPT. When we integrate, the responses generated by ChatGPT may not be deterministic, meaning the same prompt can lead to different results each time. This can incredibly useful for generating new ideas and solutions to programming challenges. So let's open ChatGPT. I'm using 3.5 version. You can use any version, and I wanted to learn how OpenAI's API works, how it takes the prompt and generating the text, the generating the text that we wanted, how to call that API. So I'm going to write a function, a Python function to call OpenAI LLM. Oops, sorry. Let's see how I can use the API. So it's importing OpenAI library. It's using API key. A prompt is provided as our argument, and then response, it is calling OpenAI completion and create function. It is giving prompt as um, argument, and then it is using an example prompt. Once upon a time, it's printing generated text. Okay, so this is the API that takes the prompt and printing the generated text. It's using engine. There's other parameters that it's using. So I wanted to print the result. I want to see it. So I'm using a casual prompt. Let's see. In print, let's show how you can print the result after generating the text continuation. So this parameters, returns, it's all the same. It's using your running function call open AI LLM. So so it's printing generated text and print. Okay, so it's just show me that how to print that result. What I'm trying to get is an example of it. So show me an example of the output. Let's see. Oh, okay. So it is giving me an example of that's output, and it's explaining, it's giving me some instructions. Once upon a time in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a brave knight named Sir Arthur. Okay, I think it's an interesting story. So what we did here is we generated a function to call an AI assistant, which generated the output based on the prompts that we have given. With the help of multiple prompts, we were able to generate example, and further go deeper and enhance our knowledge. Now I know how to use this API. So like this, there are more use cases to use AI into our workflow. Like we can use AI to help us decide which technology to use. For example, to develop a mobile app, what are the frameworks available? And we can ask to give a comparison of these frameworks based on performance or easy to code or any other features that are a requirement in our mobile app. AI assistance helps us to be knowledgeable, help us in decision making, idea generation, and much more useful, much more opportunities. So I'm not going to show all these use cases, but let's see how AI or ChatGPT can help us in web development. We are we are going to develop a web app that gets an I'm going to get a new chat here. And so let's develop a web app that gets, for example, get an article content or essay as input and summarize this article. Okay. To develop this web app, I think what I need is an HTML page where I can enter the article content, some form of JavaScript as a middleware, an API that summarizes the content and sends it back to the JavaScript. So this is an overall idea of what we are going to do. So first, let's create that function, like the summarizing, right? So we all know AI assistants have their limitations. Based on which AI we are using, the limitations vary. When we consider our use case, we don't want our business logic or product data to be given directly to the AI model for various reasons. One of it could be proprietary information. So we also have limitations on what we can provide as a prompt. So instead of giving the whole business logic, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do a similar task so that as a developer, I get the code that needed to develop my business logic on my own. So that we can do that now. So I'm going to write a Python function to use an open AI LLM to summarize the article content into 5 bullet points. I'm just giving the prompt that's coming to my mind as what I needed for my web app. Let's see. So it's giving me some basic outline of, it is saying that it's a basic outline of how you can achieve this. So it's providing an API key function which takes article content as parameter, then prompt, it's providing the prompt as the article content, and it is calling the function, calling the API, bullet points. So it is giving bullet points. Return the bullet points, and it's giving an article as example usage of that, and it's putting the bullet point. I'm printing the bullet point. So I think this is good. This is what it is, also giving me example instructions like actual open AI API key, remember to handle potential errors. So it is giving me some warning and instructions and how to use this API. So I'm happy with what I got here. So I got a function. So let's write uh, um, an endpoint, right? So API, write an API endpoint using Flask. I'm going to use giving a specific technology that I want to use, Flask and Python to expose this function. So let's see. Here is an example how you can create an API endpoint using Flask. So it is importing Flask, API key, the function with prompt, bullet points. It is API route, summarize, /summarize, and it's giving the JSON output. So this is good. It's giving me instructions and also commands of what the endpoint is going to do. So I got the function, I got the endpoint. Let's protect this. It's always necessary because I'm working on a web app, so I don't want anyone to use this as a endpoint for something else. So protect this endpoint behind OAuth 2-layer. To protect the endpoint behind install Flask, so it is giving me instruction to install Flask or auth library. It's importing auth to provider library using dummy data as users API key, the function with prompt, bullet points, the endpoint. It is routing to token. So load client. Yeah, this is good. It is protected and it is giving what it is doing. It is giving me instructions and warning, and this is good. So I'm happy with it. So I got the protection for my endpoint. Now let's give this to JavaScript. So write a JavaScript. So I'm not specifying which JavaScript. We have seen the Python functions, right? Let's see JavaScript. Write a JavaScript to call this API. Now I'm not being too specific. I'm just getting the overall idea or general outline of what my web app is gonna do. So it is using API URL, data fetch, API URL, method post. So yeah, I mean it is good. It is example article content, and it's calling that function. So I'm happy with it. So we got the JavaScript to call the endpoint. Now we need the front page, right? So write an HTML to allow the users to enter an article content that content that when submitted call this API. So basic function of what my HTML page should do. So HTML document, it has a text area, it is a button, submit, summary, it's calling the endpoints, fetch. So I'm happy with it. Make sure to replay. So it's also giving me the instructions and warnings and explaining what it is doing. So I'm happy with it. So this is not the entire business logic on our product, but by doing this, instead of spending hours of coding from scratch, I was able to get some skeleton code which I can use or apply to my business logic or my product, right? This took only less than 10 minutes. Usually I will take at least 1 hour to write all these code. So this is good. I'm happy with it. As you know, one thing we need to consider is ChatGPT or any other AI assistants may sometimes make mistakes. So by doing this exercise, what we learned is that AI assistants offer a useful starting point for writing code, saving my time and effort as a developer or an engineer. We can all save time and effort to get the basic or a starting point for writing my code. But I want to emphasize that human oversight is essential to ensure accuracy and prevent mistakes. I have not done that. I just looked into the general outline and I'm happy with what it has produced. But an oversight is needed. Verify the output, make sure the code generator is what I needed. But the Advantage is potential for increased productivity and time saving. We can also ask ChatGPT or any AI assistants to write the code to map the data in a specific form, like a CSV file. We can also use it to write code to email specific data or information, give some data, and ask AI assistant to predict the future values, write code for unit testing, ask to debug the code. Depending on the AI assistant we are using, we can ask to visualize the data into a graph and much more opportunities. We don't have to be an expert in prompt generation. You saw me using in general basic prompt. So basic knowledge will help to generate the output that we want. So as you have seen now that how I have used a chat GPT for developing web app, try and see how you can integrate AI assistants to help you in your workflow. Now let's talk about the challenges in integrating AI into our workflow. As mentioned earlier, AI or LLM has its limitations. It is an exceptional tool to increase productivity. We saw that, right? But the results produced by AI assistants need human oversight, need developer effort to refine the prompt, refine the code or output. So these are the challenges. These AI assistants are general purpose coding assistants because they have been trained on vast amounts of publicly available data. The downside of that approach is that they know nothing about an organization's specific domain and problems. Even the most extensive models struggle to memorize knowledge that is infrequently mentioned in their training data. So their answers can be generic and not contextualized to one's specific domain. You can see that ChatGPT is mostly trained on Python. So it has more knowledge or will produce more accurate output in Python when compared to, say, COBOL. Another challenge is the chances of producing inaccurate responses. Additional user effort is required to refine prompts, right? Based on the output, um, the verify that output and refine your prompt. So additional effort is needed. That this could potentially increase developer cognitive load and time investment. For example, if you know the code to write a REST API for a particular type of business logic, especially you have built products using the same API multiple times. You have used that API multiple times. So the effort and time to produce the correct prompt to generate the code for needed API will be higher when compared to your experience in writing the API code. As mentioned earlier, the LLM can produce inconsistent responses, meaning the same prompts generates different answers. We've seen that this could be an opportunity for idea generation and solving programming challenges, but it could also be an issue, especially if it appears correct or produces random clueless information due to lack of training data or lack of understanding the request. This is called hallucinations. The extensive reliance on prompt engineering could be another challenge to developers. The minor adjustment to the input prompt can yield significant variations in the output. So it complicates the usability and reliability of these tools for developers. So there have been efforts to mitigate these issues, at least some of these issues. One approach is retrieval augmented generation, short formed as RAG. It involves retrieving relevant documents from a database and then feeding these documents along with original documents to the LLM. This is or the, this approach is mitigating the issue of lack of relevant data and sources and enhance reliability. So companies like Nvidia and platforms like Stackspot AI have used the RAG approach. There are other platforms also use this RAG approach to reduce hallucinations and enrich the accuracy by developing contextualized based LLM. So these platforms allow integration of sources of data like issues and commits in the code, integrate Jira to understand the business logic. So give the context, the approaches, give the context of the question, data and sources associated with it, and the question to the LLM. It can produce accurate, reliable, and consistent responses. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining us.